hope you're having a great day. We are starting a new series on the channel. I know we're still doing the Ultimate General playthrough, but I wanted to go ahead and start doing another game series. In fact, we're going to be probably starting two here very shortly. As you could probably tell by the title, if you're clicking on this video, we are playing City Skylines, the original City Skylines. Now I know City Skylines 2 should be coming out any day now, but what I thought would be neat would be to actually play through City Skylines. I love City Skylines. I'm almost new to the game. I won't say new. I've been playing it for about almost 3 years now. Really loved it. It's a great, amazing game. If you haven't played it, you should definitely check it out. But I'm assuming if you're watching this, you probably have played it. So, as compared to a lot of other people, I was sort of late discovering City Skylines. Not really late discovering it. It was always on my wish list on Steam, but I never went ahead and bought it. I was always a fan of the SimCity games. My dad introduced them to us when we were very young, and we always loved them. But the one that came out, I want to say it was 2012, 2013. I'm not exactly sure. I think it was just called SimCity. Left a really bad taste in my mouth. It was not a very good game at all. Sort of turned me off the whole genre for a while. Finally gave City Skylines a chance and absolutely fell in love with this game. So that's where we are picking up now, and right as City Skylines 2 is about to come out. So I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, why play City Skylines 1 if 2 is about to come out? And I am getting 2. I can't wait for it to come out. But I figured it'd be neat to do sort of a side-by-side comparison, build two cities as, with the new game coming out, building a city in the old game, and sort of comparing how it has evolved, what's new, what big changes, what things could be better in the new game. I've watched a lot of videos so far in the new game, and I gotta say, it's definitely looks amazing. I think it's going to be a great game, but it's just judging by what I've seen so far, it's probably not going to be as fulfilling or complete feeling as City Skylines 1, which is why. So that's why I sort of figured I'd build two cities sort of side by side, and we can sort of look at it and see just what the new game has to offer and what the old game can do better, and where we think it can go from there with the new game. So, for this first episode, I'm probably not going to build anything, because what you're probably thinking is, wow, this map looks familiar. If you're a fan of the series, of the game, you're probably thinking, this map looks familiar, but not quite, and that's because this is actually a base map that you get. I believe it's in the Industries DLC. It's called Wood Garden. But what I did is I took the original map and then played with it in the map editor. Now to do that, you have to go into files and play around. Because while I did like the Wood Garden map, it definitely needed some things. Because I wanted this to be sort of a complete series, and I've always wanted to build in the Boreal theme, and I just hadn't yet. The Boreal theme is sort of like the probably like Seattle, Washington. Sort of Alaska, a lot of the northern European countries have this sort of boreal theme to them. But I've never actually built a city in this theme before, so I really wanted to go with it. I love the aesthetic of the redwoods, the pines, the evergreens. I think it's a really neat aesthetic. But like I said, there's actually not a lot of very good boreal maps. In fact, the ones that are good are actually European maps, which, if you play it on a European map, you don't really, you get the weird, I won't say weird, because they're actually great assets, but you, if you're trying to build anything high density, you get the European themed high density, which you can get in using the Boreal theme too, just by using that district style. But yeah, none of the Boreal maps, in my opinion, are very, I won't say very good, because they're all good, but none of them have everything I wanted in it. Because, like I said, I want this to be the end-all, be-all. I want to try and use every asset. I want to try and do everything you can in the game. So I did have to modify a map in order to do it, because there was, and there's definitely Boreal maps that could do it, but I didn't. The ones that have everything You can practically do everything in it. I didn't really enjoy it too much because I did a few test runs on pretty much every map before starting this. So I took the wood guarded map and, like I said, I modified it. So some of the things I modified on it, obviously we have this now. Well, one, the starting tile was a little bit farther away now from the main islands. We'll get to the main islands in a minute. But usually the starting tile, I believe, was right here. I believe it's this tile, just one to the left. Maybe it's even this tile here. I'm not 100% sure, but it's one of those tiles. So I moved the starting tile down a bit. And I also made this highway that connected, basically cut through this, at the edge of the mountain here. We are on a bit of a mountain. And just to connect each end. And what that will serve later on, I could have waited till we got in game to do that, but I wanted to go ahead and do that right now. Just because I wanted my sort of starting area to be a little bit further, and it's a little bit easier to make a highway off map because you don't unlock the ability to build highways until, like, I want to say level 4 or 5. And what eventually this will be is probably like an industrial route through the city or through this area. This is going to actually be more like a county aesthetic, whereas the main city is going to be out here. We are going to pop 81 tiles. Like I said, and I haven't said this yet, but this is going to be a bit of a vanilla light. So this isn't going to be pure vanilla gameplay. We will be using some mods in this playthrough, mostly just quality of life mods. Nothing too dramatic. Nothing like using assets or anything like that, modded assets, unless we do it ourselves. I might make some user modded assets using the asset creator. We'll see. There's a few things I have in mind. We'll see if we ever get to it. Yeah, so we have this highway. Eventually this is going to be like an industrial highway that's going to connect all the way out here. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to make this, so I just made this quick trumpet interchange here just to get us off the highway and through the map. Another thing I did is the only train connection originally was one that came down this highway and ran along the inside of this highway. I totally redid the train connection. So we have this highway that now runs along the outside, but then also cuts in through the map itself, as well as another one that starts on this end and comes down this highway. Sorry, I'm moving a little quickly. I don't want this video to be very long. But so this one that cuts through the map here, and as you can see, it's not actually complete at the moment because for some reason the asset editor or in the map editor, you can't actually dig through the mountains. You can't actually go below grade. You can elevate any railroad or road you want, but you can't actually dig under. So that was a bit interesting that they don't allow you to do that. So yeah, so this one that's cutting through, as I was saying, is probably will be my industrial sort of cargo route for the city. And as you can see, it sort of diverts. It also runs all the way through this like lower valley, if you can tell. Zoom in a little bit better. So it comes through this valley that's actually off the 25 tiles that you can build on. And like I said, I'm not sure if we're definitely gonna pop 25 tiles. I definitely want to do that. I'm not sure if I'm gonna pop 81 tiles. That, if you've never played the game, that just means you unlock more of the map. You have to use a mod for that because you can only unlock 9 tiles in game. And so to basically get access to the entire map like this, you actually have to use either 25 or 81 tiles. 81 tiles allows you to use the whole map. 25 tiles allows you to use basically the center square grid that you can actually buy. 81 tiles again would be the ones you actually can't buy, whereas 25 technically are all the ones you can buy. And then what's going to happen eventually too with this road, as you can see, again, it can't tunnel yet, but it's eventually going to tunnel in. It's going to actually come all the way down. Now, it's a pretty extremely long tunnel. I'm not exactly how long this would be in real life, like from measuring from here all the way down here, because this is where it will end, sort of in this flat spot, because this is where we are going to end up building a cargo harbor. But yeah, it's going to tunnel all the way down here. Now, realistically, you won't usually see something like that all too often. Now there are long tunnels, especially here in the United States, tunnels. In fact, I believe the longest tunnel is in Washington State. I want to say it's something like 5 miles long. So there is, I won't say it's out of the realm of possibility that you could have a tunnel. Now I don't know if a tunnel would tunnel under a river like this. And we'll get to the river here in a minute. So I don't know if that's realistic, but having a 5 mile long tunnel is not, definitely not out of the realm of possibility. I don't know if this would be 5 miles. Judging by the look, I would say it's probably around about that. There is a metric you could use, an algorithm you can use to actually figure that out. I think I've seen somebody, it's about how many units each road length is, and you can determine how long it is by that. So I'm hoping that it's somewhat realistic that you could possibly have a tunnel that goes all the way over here. Like I said, it's probably somewhere in the range of 5 to 10 miles, so probably not all that realistic, but it's probable that something like that could happen. And then this train line that's coming down through here will be the passenger train line that cuts through the city. What you don't want to do is you don't ever want to merge the cargo and passenger line, because then you get extreme backups. It's possible you could do it, but it's best to avoid that if possible. Same with any sort of cargo line. That's why this one here will serve as a bit of a ring road, but also mostly as a way to move cargo throughout the city without trying to get on, because this is where we're going to have most of our roads that lead into the different points of the city. Now, and then, let's see, we're going through the changes I made to the map. Honestly, for terrain changes, really not. I sort of redid the highway here, the highway road. Changed it just a little bit, made it a little bit more of an even grade throughout the whole thing. Added this little bit here to make it look like they had to cut out a side of the mountain to put the road in. Just a little cheesy stuff like that. And again, this is where it meets up with the other side. Eventually, it probably will travel down into what would be the cargo harbor. Made this bit of a crazy interchange here. How realistic this is, I don't know. There are interchanges like this where I live, because I do live in a sort of a mountainous community, and so you do see these sort of crazy circuitous interchanges. So I won't say this is completely out of the realm of something that would be unrealistic. It's sort of like a cloverleaf interchange, slightly, sort of, kind of, but not quite. But it is modeled after a interchange that is actually near me, so you do sort of see things like this in real life. They're not all that prevalent. Basically, you just gotta use your train and do what's best with the terrain. And like I said, right now it's incomplete. Right now it's just a sort of a pass through, but like I said, it probably won't continue down here. And like I said, in terms of train changes, again, not too much. Again, we got this railroad that cuts through this area. I did have to play around with a little bit with the train, but one of the bigger train changes is these islands out here. These will serve for our purposes and this playthrough as the downtown. This will be the major metropolitan city. Will be on these islands. So what I'm thinking, and so what I did, let's just do one thing at a time. What I did is I basically did something that might be a little controversial. I flattened all the islands. These were much more rigid. A little bit of hills. There is still a little bit of terrain in there, but it's mostly been flattened. All the islands here have been mostly flattened. This one has probably the most sort of terrain to it, but for the most part, they've all been completely flattened. And I also made all these little sort of outer bay islands. Did some fun stuff out here with the train. I'm not great with map editing. That's why I didn't also make my own map and rather sort of detailed up an already existing one. And then finally, we do also have another train line that comes in here. The side of the map cuts through or around this sort of mountain range here, cuts over, and then we'll eventually move into the cargo harbor as well. So yeah, that's what I've done, sort of to mess around with the map. There are a few other things, like I sort of made sort of like a beach here because I have plans for this area. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've done. Oh, actually, one of the bigger features that the map that's changed. I did this up here. Originally, this was basically a bit of a, what do you want to call it? Not a gully. Is it a gully? It's, basically a depression in the land, almost like a volcano up here is what it reminded me of. There is was this sort of like depression in the land. The name escapes me. I want to say gully, but I know that's maybe not the correct technical term. So what I actually did is I actually put a water source up here and actually turned it into a lake rather than this sort of volcano looking thing. So really up here we have this like mountainous lake, and what I then did too was made this sort of river that comes down into a waterfall and then travels down to another waterfall, a bit of a waterfall, to the end of the map here, just to make this sort of slightly winding river throughout the middle of the map, right towards the beginning of the starting zone. So now that we've talked about the changes to the map, I do want to go through and sort of give you my idea for what I want to eventually have this map look like. And what I want to do is sort of model it over after places I've been, and also the places I live at. Specifically the one place I currently live at. I live in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. And it's absolutely beautiful. We do have this sort of, I won't call it a valley because it's not really a valley, but we do have this sort of fertile stretch of land that stretches all the way out through here, and then sort of into the mountains, which is very reminiscent of the area that I live in right now. So I sort of want to model it after that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out a little different than what I've seen a lot of people start out. We're actually going to create, rather than like the suburbs of what will become the metropolitan area out here, we're going to sort of start by flowing along this sort of, like I said, it's not quite a valley, but this fertile area of land, which I did extend a little bit in the map editor. I think it only sort of stretches right through here. I sort of changed it up a little bit. And yeah, like I said, sort of start out and move through this sort of fertile stretch of land, creating like all these small little towns and villages, not quite making a large city, so to speak, right at the beginning, or even a township. It's really just going to be small rural towns and villages that sort of just dot their way through this valley. We probably will have a slightly larger town sort of in this area. I have some few ideas for like this sort of mountainside town. Not so much mountainside, but just sort of this little town, maybe that's slightly larger than some of the other villages and towns. Now that we will still have a bit of a starting town here as well. That's going to be a bit bigger than some of the other ones. Like I said, most of these would just be sort of these small villages that you see in a lot of places like Vermont, upper state New York, New Hampshire, Washington State, Oregon, even through like I said, the Shenandoah Valley. If you go down 81, you're always passing through just these small, like 2,000 people towns. Nothing big. I mean, we do have some bigger towns. Winchester is obviously one of the bigger towns. Stanton is slightly larger. Is a slightly large town. Blacksburg, where Virginia Tech is located, is obviously a big town. And that's sort of what we're going to model our opening with, the opening of our cities with. And then we're going to go through that probably for the first good while. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't think it's going to take too long. Probably maybe as much as the first 10 episodes. if that, honestly. And then what we're also going to have out here, we're probably going to have a few other small towns. I'm thinking maybe a small fishing village along this route here. I do have something interesting in mind. I just don't know if there's enough space here. I think there is going to be enough space on this little island out here. I think this is where we're eventually going to have our nuclear power plant. I think that would actually look really cool to have this sort of like 5 Mile Island aesthetic, or maybe even like on this peninsula have like the nuclear power plant. I don't know, something we could play with as we go through. But yeah, like a little fishing village here. We do have ore on this side, so we'll probably have a few more like small towns that just sort of ring the base of this mountain range here, as well as another probably few small towns through here, or just one small town on this island here. Over here is probably where we're going to have our airport. That's what I'm sort of thinking. I think it would look really neat to have an airport out here, have planes taking off with the sort of downtown on their right as they take off. I think that would look neat. Obviously, there will be some other assets out here as well, because we also, one of the things I had to do, because one of the things this map was missing, we do have an oil deposit now that I've added to the map, just on the edge of the 25 tile radius out here. And we probably will have some oil assets out here, as well as, again, a lot of rural small towns. We're going to really surround this area with a lot of rural small towns. Like I said, eventually making our way up to what would be the large, massive metropolitan area, which will be all over these islands. A lot of high density, medium density throughout these areas. Now up here on this sort of flat land, we are going to have sort of probably a much larger, but not quite, I would say probably a large suburban area. Maybe a little bit of high density through here, or medium density, sort of working our way up as we get to more of the downtown area. So this would probably be more like I said, I mentioned Winchester, Virginia, just because that's where I'm close. Probably something along those lines. Maybe this is where we'll have our first college. Maybe the college can be throughout this area. Maybe give it like a JMU. Again, just using things in my area. Maybe give it a little bit of a JMU aesthetic, where it's sort of in the small town, but it's also a little bit into the woods. You'd have to visit JMU to understand what I'm talking about. Out here, we'll probably just have a lot of suburbs, maybe like almost like farmland suburbs. You see that a lot around the DC area, where you have like big towns, not big towns, but like big suburban towns that are then but they're also surrounded by farmland. Think of things like Alexandria. If you just go just outside of like Alexandria, Virginia, you have like suburbs. That's sort of what I'm thinking, or like farmland. It's also like right there in the suburbs. So that's what I'm sort of thinking out here for this area, is probably add some more farms, and then like I said, we'll have our cargo harbor here, and like I said, we'll have all of our downtown sort of things here. Now this is going to be much more. This isn't going to be like a concrete metropolitan area. So this isn't going to be like New York. This is going to be much more beautified. Think more like probably Seattle or San Antonio. Something that's still a pretty big metropolitan area, but still also has some very like beauty-esque assets to it. And so don't think that this is just going to be some big concrete jungle out here. When I say downtown, it's not. In fact, I'm probably going to make like an old town downtown, like an old city aesthetic somewhere along here. I'm not sure where yet. As well as more of a modern downtown. We will have highways that cut through the downtowns as well. A lot of public transportation, metros, trains, probably trolleys for the downtown. I feel like trolleys a lot of people are down on trolleys. I always enjoyed the trolley system. I didn't think it was that much different than the tram. Now, trolleys definitely have got an improvement as of recently. I even want to add like an old monorail, like something that they added to the city, thinking they were going to be like really high tech and cool. Probably just something that runs from the airport down to into the downtown, maybe to the big downtown, which is what I'm planning on having. The big, with all the big skyscrapers, probably on this island here. This will probably be more like a Brooklyn type area, sort of medium density, mostly residential. I'm thinking this island for like the old downtown, maybe like an old port here too, right across from like the new cargo port, something that used to be there but isn't quite big enough, so they had to build something new over here, and then probably just like, again, more residential on this smaller island out here. Yeah, that's sort of what I'm thinking now. Again, going back to some of the changes I made to the map, I believe, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've actually modded this map. This was actually one island, or was very like almost like a swamp connected to each other, and I think I just broke it into 2 islands. God, it's been so long. I think that was the case. And then finally, one of the pieces I want to make out here, which will be interesting, especially with the train. So we might definitely going to have to play around a little bit here, is sort of making sort of a boardwalk beach that sort of overlooks the downtown. It might not work out the way I want it to. We'll have to play around just because of how close these are. I don't think they would actually build like a beach sort of boardwalk right across from a downtown area. We'll have to play around. Maybe we'll make it work. But yeah, something along the lines of like Atlantic City. Maybe we just have like the beach. Maybe we extend the beach out a little bit here and just have like a small beach, and then a boardwalk that's stays at. There's really no beach assets. Maybe some piers that stick out, but no real beach assets. And then we just have sort of a beach down in this area where there's a little bit more space and it might be a little more believable. So yeah, those are the plans at least. We'll see what actually comes of it. We'll see how far we get in this series. Hopefully we'll get in, we'll realize all my plans. But really, like I said, we're going to start small. We're going to start rural. A lot of people I've noticed don't really do that. They usually go to rural towns after they build out in the downtown, which there might be a reason for that. I've never actually done this myself. Started out with a lot of small towns. It may get to the point where I'm like, I might shoot myself in the first bit in the foot. I might actually have to pop 25 tiles before I actually progress through, because that's going to be the idea, is try to keep it as vanilla as possible. Until I can start running out of space, and in which case I will pop 25 tiles and then possibly 81 if we feel like we want to keep going with the series. But that can get difficult with tree counts and node counts and everything. One of the things we are going to do right away, though, because I'm building rural and there is no rural power lines, so we are going to go ahead. In fact, I've already done it. But if you download the 81 tiles mod, you have the ability to choose to have power and water sent through the roads, rather than having to build water lines and power lines. Again, because we're doing rural communities, which right off the bat, which is going to mean that a lot of this stuff is going to be very separate from each other, and we don't really have rural power lines. You can download, or there is a mod. There's actually a really good rural power line mod, which I've used in the past. They look really neat, and we're gonna have that in City Skylines too, is those rural power lines. But we don't actually have it in this game, and like I said, I want to try and keep it as vanilla as possible, and that means not using any assets, like no modded assets. Like I said, trying to keep it just quality of life mods. Things like, I do have the prop line tool downloaded, I do have the forestry brush, things like that we're going to be using. Hide it, to hide the industrial, like, darkening of the land, and you know, the scouring of the land because of industrial, which just looks horrible in this game. So things like that nature. But this video is already gone a little bit longer than I want, and I'm sure you guys are probably bored if you even stuck around this part, as I just discussed on the map and the planning. I'm gonna post this episode, and then immediately right behind this episode I'm gonna post the very first episode, which will be us building out the first of all of our small towns throughout this rural area. So thank you all for watching. Hopefully you stick in and stay tuned to watch all of this series. And like I said, we will be doing City Skylines 2 when it comes out. We're going to be doing that side-by-side comparison of the two games. So thank you all for watching. Stick around for the next episode. And as always, have a good day.